Years ago, I remember meeting an old man in a quaint wooden rum shop that stood on four ancient-looking pillars by the side of the road in the village of Bylands, in the beautiful and fertile parish of St. Andrew. This village sits isolated upon a mountain range that boasts panoramic views of rolling green hills, deep valleys, the great river, and the Atlantic Ocean shimmering in the distance. Cool mountain air filters through the lush vegetation and tropical rainforest, exposing the residents to some of the cleanest air in the world. In such an environment, it is hard not to feel instantly revitalized. If you, the reader, think that is the limit of her charms, you would be mistaken, for she possesses another hidden gem, the smoothest, cleanest spring water imaginable. The water, I dare say, if I am allowed the liberty of a metaphor, is like drinking liquid air, for its density is so light and refreshing. One can easily overindulge and become bloated. Come now, let us stray no further from our story, and leave the selling of Bylands charms to the Ministry of Tourism. I was sitting on a wooden bench, with my back against a rotted partition. I brought a cold Carib beer to my lips and took a mouthful, feeling the fermented hops make their way down my throat and into my stomach. It was around midday. The sun hung high in the sky, and the heat was unbearable. I could hear the creaking of the rusted corrugated metal sheets that formed the roof of the shop. "Young man, would you mind if an old man rested his tired legs?" The voice broke my train of thought. Looking in its direction, my eyes came to rest upon a weather-beaten face that bore a toothless smile. "Please do," I replied, gesturing toward the empty space beside me. Being either curious, friendly, or both, as Grenadians are known to be, the old man proceeded to question me about my family and what I did for a living. We spoke about politics, farming, hunting, fishing for crayfish, and the virtues of marriage. I bought him a quarter bottle of Rivers rum. That brought a huge smile to his face, temporarily shaving 20 years from his appearance. After 3 stiff shots and no chaser, his tongue began wagging even more. This is the story he told me. I will attempt to narrate it as best as I can, but many years have passed since then, and cobwebs may have obscured parts of it. Anyway, here goes. The old man was just a lad when a certain Mr. Django first came to live in the village. No one knew who he was. He was a quiet man who kept to himself and busied his days, cultivating his small plot of land with yams, peas, cabbages, okra, dasheen, and callaloo. The only person he spoke to was the shopkeeper, and that was how everyone came to know his name. According to Mr. Dellon, the shopkeeper, Mr. Django had come from India to search for his grandfather, who had arrived on these shores as an indentured laborer and worked tirelessly until he was able to open a tailoring business. However, by the time Django found him, his grandfather had one foot in this world and the other in the next. After the old man passed away, Django sold the tailoring business and settled in Bylands. Mr. Django was a slim man who always dressed in a flowing white gown. His head was wrapped in a black turban, and he possessed the most penetrating eyes imaginable. The old man remembered hearing villagers say that they would often hear Django singing in a strange language. Others claimed they saw different colored smoke rising from his house. After a while, life returned to normal, and the villagers found something else to distract them: the arrival of Mr. John Goller. Mr. Goller was an arrogant Englishman who purchased a large tract of land and proceeded to cultivate it with bananas and coffee. Then came the time to build his plantation house. Unfortunately for him, the spot he wanted was already occupied by none other than Mr. Django. Goller approached Django and offered him money. Django refused. He offered more. Django still refused. But Mr. Goller was not a man who accepted no for an answer. He swore that if it was the last thing he did, he would build his house upon that very spot. Thus began the legend of Mr. Goller and Mr. Django. You see, Django's property sat upon a plateau blessed with 2 springs and a small pond. It possessed the finest view in the village. Soon, things began going badly for Django. Someone poisoned the fish and crayfish in his pond. Another time, upon returning from the market, he found all his windows shattered. Then his goats disappeared. Everyone knew it was the work of Mr. Goller through his hired men. The entire village held its breath to see how Django would react. Yet, he remained calm and never uttered a complaint. The shopkeeper often said nobody should sleep on Mr. Django, That man is not someone to meddle with. The final straw came one Christmas while Django was away in St. George's on business. Mr. Gawler sent his henchmen to steal Django's sacred bull. It was a magnificent white animal, and because Django was a Hindu, he did not eat beef. The men slaughtered the bull and held a grand cookout. For 2 days, the villagers feasted, drank rum, and ate stewed beef with rice. They praised Mr. Gawler for his generosity and declared him the finest Englishman they had ever met. It was on the evening of the second day of festivities that Django returned. As he passed by, people called out for him to join them for a drink. He merely shook his head and continued walking. Then came the bombshell. According to the old man, if a pin had fallen upon the dirt, everyone would have heard it. As Django walked by, Mr. Gawler shouted mockingly, "Look, an Indian sultan! It is he whom we should thank for providing this stewed beef." Django froze in his tracks. Slowly, he turned and stared at Mr. Gawler. Gawler returned the stare with defiance. Those present swore they saw flames dancing within Django's eyes. Without speaking a word, he turned and walked away. The moment the villagers learned the source of their feast, they abandoned their food and drink and scattered. 2 days later, the 2 henchmen who had stolen the bull were dead, killed during a drunken brawl in Pearls. 9 days later, Mr. Gawler fell ill. He never recovered. Exactly 40 days later, he died. Now, that should have been the end of the story. But that would contradict the title. The funeral of Mr. Gawler took place at the small Catholic church in the village. The church was packed with villagers, along with several wealthy friends and a cousin who sat near the front, fanning themselves in a desperate attempt to escape the oppressive heat made worse by so many bodies crowded into such a small building. Mr. Gawler lay in an impressive mahogany coffin dressed in a black suit and tie. A pained expression was frozen upon his face, and he appeared to have aged 30 years. In the middle of the priest's sermon, a loud gasp erupted from the back of the church. Everyone turned toward the disturbance. Standing in the doorway was Mr. Django, holding a rod in his hand. Without speaking, he walked slowly down the aisle toward the coffin. No one moved, not even the priest. It was as though every soul in the church had been spellbound. When he reached the coffin, Django threw a blue powder into Gawler's face. Then he struck the coffin 3 times with his rod. Without another word, he turned and walked out. Every eye followed him. It was only the loud cry of the priest that caused people to turn back toward the altar. There, sitting upright inside his coffin, was Mr. Gawler. All hell broke loose. The priest fainted. So did Mr. Gawler's cousin. People leapt through windows and trampled one another in their desperation to escape the horrifying sight. Pem broke his ankle. Miss Nanny lost her wig. Pai broke his wrist in the stampede. For 3 days, the villagers locked themselves indoors. Throughout that entire time, Mr. Gawler remained sitting upright in his coffin. When word spread to neighboring villages, people came from far and wide to witness the supernatural spectacle. Try as they might, no one could force his body to lie down. It simply would not bend backward. Mr. Gawler remains, to this day, the only man ever buried sitting upright in Grenada. Eventually, he was wrapped in 2 sheets and buried in that position. Because the villagers did not want his body anywhere near the village, he was buried 400 meters from the hot spring beside a giant silk cotton tree. Mr. Django was never seen again. A week later, his house burned to the ground. Some villagers claim that on certain full moon nights, they can still hear him singing in Hindi. After that day, none of the villagers ever ate beef again, and the custom remained for an entire generation. Even today, if you visit Bylands, you may hear the elders warn the young, "Let sleeping dogs lie still." Today, Mr. Gawler's grave still exists beneath the silk cotton tree, and no one dare visit that place after dark.